Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Change Podcast, Insights into Empowerment. And this is where we bring you a guest every week that's going to help you learn, help you empower yourself, and hopefully create changes that are going to be for the greater good. And today's no different. We have a procrastination expert today. And I, for one, am really excited about that because I'm guilty. What does he do? He's going to help you become excited about Mondays. Yay. He will also teach you how to avoid burning out so you can move on to live a life free of worry, of getting things done, and help you walk that emotional path of freedom. So anyway, please welcome Jesse Holmes to our stage. How are you, Jesse?
I'm fantastical. Thank you so much for having me here.
Good. You are so welcome. And when I saw that you were a procrastination expert, I was really intrigued by that because really you're the first one I've ever come across. I mean, we read about it, we know about it, and guilty of doing it. But I'm really curious, what causes procrastination?
That's such a fantastic question. A lot of people, the biggest misconception is procrastination is just like a time management issue. Like I just, didn't schedule my day properly or things like that. Or they think it's like willpower or self-discipline or motivation when really procrastination isn't any of those external things. It's really an internal issue. It's really an emotional balance issue. And specifically how we regulate our nervous systems, because when we feel better, we do better. And we don't avoid tasks or actions. We avoid the feelings behind those tasks and actions. And the reason why leaders such as yourself struggle more with procrastination than maybe some others is because we have one, more opportunity, and two, we have no one to check in on. We have no accountability. The sky's the limit. We can do whatever we want, whenever we want. And the problem with that is we take on everything. And when we take on everything, the really important things that are actually going to make a difference in our life and our business usually get either pushed to the back, or we want to carve out so much time to be able to properly focus and give it our best effort and our shot and the best amount of time that we can to it, that we delay. And we say, you know what, until I have this either perfect, or I've thought about it enough, or if I have enough time to really dig deep into it, I'm just going to wait until I have that opportunity. The problem is, because we're leaders, entrepreneurs, we have so many things that are potentially on our plate that those important things unfortunately get pushed on the back burner.
So there's no responsibility of having to punch the time clock and that makes a lot of sense. We have to self-regulate, and that's not always the easy thing to do. And it's so funny you mentioned so many things, because when my daughter came down this weekend, she's like, Mom, she's like, what are you doing? She goes, narrow it down, schedule it out. I'm like, wait a minute, you're the kid, I'm the mom. But she's right, and you're right. And I've been hearing a lot of talk about the nervous system lately. It's like all of a sudden it's everywhere. What has changed that we now know about this, and how do we calm our nervous system to where we feel comfortable or safe enough to go about our day?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I believe that we're discovering how much the nervous system actually takes, how much it's responsible for what we get done in the day. When before it was, if someone had nerves or this, that, or the other thing, we would call it a different type of issue. We would blame it on something else, and it'd almost be shameful because, the shell of a person that I became when I was going through generalized anxiety disorder was very shameful and very internal and very not a lot of knowledge or support about it. And, there's thoughts about, therapy and medications and all that kind of stuff. Whereas now we're realizing, wait a second, how we self-regulate our nervous system has a direct impact on how much and how quickly we take action on important things, because it all has to do with fear. And fear can manifest itself in so many ways. Not even fear of failure, but fear of success, and fear of not making it perfect at the right time, fear of what other people will think about me if I don't make this perfect. And there's so many other pressures that all integrate and are directly tied to our nervous system that now this finally coming to light and say, wait a second, we've been kind of ignoring this issue or been shaming this issue. And now that there's less shame and stigma around it, we realize, wait a second, clinical studies have been done that the self-regulation of the nervous system has a direct tie into our procrastination, our productivity.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you talked about anxiety. And I think a lot of people have anxiety. At times I do, you can kind of feel it in your gut.
Yep. Yep.
But did you say that was like a fear, something fear-based, to where someone is creating a problem that doesn't exist yet?
That's absolutely right. So I went through something traumatic that messed up my nervous system. I had no idea what was going on. And this is why I talk about procrastination and focus, because where we focus is what's going to grow. So what I focused on was how I felt, all my fears, all my symptoms, how my gut hurt, how my heart was racing and my head was pounding. And the more I focused on those things and tried to push those feelings and thoughts away, the more they grew. And next thing I know, I was deep in this cycle where I felt like a shell of a person, and easy tasks felt impossible. Like taking out the trash felt like this mountain that was insurmountable. And going through that whole process, realizing I can't function this way for the rest of my life, learning how to get through that, I discovered that, wow, the principles that took me out of this nervous cycle and state into being more calm and regulated gave me so much more energy, so much more clarity, focus, and then that related in productivity on the proper things that actually made my life so much better.
Wow. Now, when that happened to you, I'm just curious, did you go like to a doctor to see what that was, and did they try to prescribe medication for you?
Absolutely. I've been to a psychologist and said this medication and this, and there's so many Band-Aids out there that are external Band-Aids trying to regulate our nervous system from an external standpoint. And that's the same with productivity tools. Most of the tools are external based. Set a timer, do this, get this app, they're all external things, but nervous system regulation, productivity, procrastination, it's all internal things. It's how we feel, how we react to how we feel, and what we do when we feel either bad or good. And
Wow.
so many of us, when we feel good, we'll do good. And when we feel bad, we won't do much of anything. And so what I like to teach people is, how can you do the thing that you want to accomplish every single day, no matter how you feel, whether you feel awful or you feel fantastic? What is that little easy, simple step that's enjoyable that you could do consistently every single day without burning out?
Wow. And I love that you called the medication a Band-Aid, because it really doesn't cure you, does it?
No. And in fact, what happens is you'll get a toleration for it. And so you either need to increase your dose, or the side effects of getting off the anxiety medication is more anxiety, because it's just, like you said, it's a Band-Aid. It's not a solution.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you replace the medication with? I know that for some of my clients I work with, when you feel that tightness in your stomach, or, in your chest, I use breathing, I use meditation, I use things like that. Have you done that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Part of my daily practice is all focused around how I can regulate my nervous system. Like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So every single day I have meditation and breath work and visualization and stretching and all the things that help me feel at my best, especially from a nervous system level. But for me, when I was in that state, I wasn't in the state of being able to be proactive. I was in the state of like, I needed to recover. I was so messed up that even meditation and breath work wouldn't have been enough. It's like I broke my leg and now I'm just trying to, stretch things out to try to feel better, when it's like, no, you need to put a cast on it. You need to rest. You need to fully heal and recover before you can get into those more preventative issues.
And that's such a good thing for people to keep in mind, because we can't feel good one day and think, okay, I'm going to burst on the scene and do everything. Healing is a process.
Right.
I've learned, and it's one of those that I now know I'll be doing the rest of my life on one degree or another. So
absolutely,
I love it.
That was one of the big shifts and changes for me, is I wanted myself to feel better now and instantly. I was so impatient, and I just made things so much worse, instead of having this understanding that, okay, this might take longer than I expect to feel better. And if I take the right steps and have the proper mindset of what do I do when I feel this way, I reinterpreted those signals not as a green light to go faster, but as a yellow light or a red light to slow down and stop. And having that proper mindset actually gave me a perspective on life and business, instead of I need results now. I need this now. It's like, no, how can I look at this at a long-term level? How can I build this for sustainability and consistency, not I have energy, I'm going to push really hard, and then I'm going to burn myself out, which is a very common thing of a lot of entrepreneurs have. We have so much opportunity and we want to get results immediately instead of, hey, how can we plan for the long term, be consistent, and focus on true lasting growth?
Yeah, and that's so important. And I think in our society, sometimes we're so conditioned, oh, you have to do this. You've got to get up at 5. You've got to do this. You've got, just on and on and on, that we almost feel guilty if we don't. But it's like someone is advising or telling me what my body can or can't take. And I think we have to really get in tune with our eternal self, along with our external self. And what works for you, not what works for someone else. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. What works for me isn't going to be work for other people. So how I coach and how I teach things, it's not like I don't teach you how to stop procrastinating. I show you what are you procrastinating on and how can we shift it to focus. We're all procrastinating on something. Opportunity cost, we have to choose. And so I help you choose, what do you procrastinate on and what shouldn't you be procrastinating on? And what is easy and enjoyable for one person is completely different for another person. So I focus really on the individual person and unlocking that personally, because everyone is different. How we respond to anxiety is different. Our symptoms are different. And the capacity we have for growth is different depending on where we're at in our life.
And I think that's an amazing thing to do, because it teaches people that we are individuals, and you're concentrating on just them in that moment. And I love that. I love that. Now, how do you teach people to prioritize tasks? Tell me, what is the outline for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the question I ask is, what is the one thing on your to-do list today that would have the biggest impact on your life and business if that's the only thing you got done today? And we highlight and identify that and say, okay, maybe I need to move that up either earlier on in my day or make sure I'm doing that every single day. Because if it's an important task, like my to-do list isn't a wish list. It's I get these done every single day, day in and day out. Because if they're important, they're worth repeating. And so when it comes to business or life or anything like that, if I say, okay, I need to be in better shape. Okay, well, then it's important to do something every single day for that, not just once in a while.
And do most people, when you tell them that, do they hear it with their ears, or are they just like, okay?
So the reaction I usually push for is I'll give them a suggestion and they have to laugh at how stupid, simple, and easy it is. When I see them laughing, I'm like, okay, we're on the right track.
They get it.
That's the first thing, because they didn't even realize it. And they say, well, that sounds too easy and too simple. Then they laugh and they say, wait a second, you're right. I am going to try that. You know what I mean? So that's the reaction I go for.
And you've also made it fun.
Yes.
I don't know that procrastination is fun, but at least you put a bit of humor on it. So that's got to help tremendously.
Absolutely. It's got to be enjoyable. If you don't enjoy it, then you got to enjoy the journey. Like if we're only delaying gratification until we get the destination, and so many entrepreneurs, myself included, were guilty of it. When I achieve this, then I will be this.
Ooh.
Right? And we think that happiness is some reached destination that I have to disregard until I achieve something. And we think that there's a way to happiness. But my personal mantra is happiness is the way. And if I don't have something that I'm enjoying the journey of, that small hit of dopamine I get when I accomplish the goal at the end of all that work and effort isn't going to undo and be worth all the self-sacrifice I made if I'm hating the journey.
Ooh, that's very, very interesting, because everybody wants to talk about the journey. And it's not always pleasant. You know, I've gone on some ugly journeys.
Absolutely.
And, I think that's real important that people understand that. And another thing is, I've learned at my age, happiness is inside of you.
Yes.
And if you're not happy inside, no matter where you go, what goal you reach, where you live, what you drive, you're not going to be happy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So you're bringing up some amazing points. You really are. And, I talk to some people, because I have my clients, and they're like, yeah, but it's the journey. It's the journey. Well, you do have to take steps into the journey, but don't just concentrate on the journey. You got to open up, use your peripheral vision to see where you're going, because maybe sometimes you hit a blip and that journey becomes a stumbling block.
That's right. Right. And that's right. And don't justify the misery of the journey for doing it right. It's just like, oh, I must be miserable in order to succeed. No, that's not true. Learning how to be calm and happy and consistent in the midst of adversity is really the secret.
That's brilliant. I love that. Now, what's a motivating factor for people? What carrot do you dangle for them that it's like, okay, that motivates me? How do you go about that?
Well, what's so interesting is when I ask the people this one question, what's your biggest struggle with procrastination right now? Subconsciously, the brain will go to that thing. So there's this quote, a Stoic quote says, the obstacle is the way, meaning the thing that we're avoiding subconsciously in our brain is probably one of the best things we should be doing, but we're avoiding it. So just by identifying, hey, what is that thing you're procrastinating on? That brings it up to, that's probably the thing you should be focusing on.
Wow. And I know our body holds every answer that we need, but you talk about the subconscious, and boy, do we push down a lot, don't we?
Absolutely. We don't even know that we're doing it. It's buried in there, but our body knows if we're procrastinating on something, it's probably important.
And when they spit that answer out, does it ever surprise them that where did that come from?
Absolutely, because most people think that procrastination is a completely different issue. They think it's a time management issue or this issue, and then they realize, wait a second, the answer that they gave me about what they're procrastinating on was something emotionally important to them, was way deeper than I forgot to cut the grass. No, it's something that's really important to them.
Wow. So they have that epiphany of, maybe it's not so hard after all because it's inside of me. I must know it. And how does this make someone's life easier?
Well, what I do is identify the thing that they're procrastinating on. It's usually something very important. And because it's important, they've blown it up in their brain of, if it's important, therefore it must be difficult to achieve. Whereas I make it say, okay, what is the least amount of time and energy that you could spend enjoyably taking one step closer to achieving that goal without burning out? And I break it down as small and simple and easy as possible. So for instance, yesterday, I asked a guy, what's the biggest struggle with procrastination? He said, oh, you know what? For me, it's just like a self-improvement. I need to focus on my self-improvement. I said, what's the least amount of time you could spend every single day working on your self-improvement? And he's like, oh, a couple hours, 4 hours, 2 hours. But realistically, probably 30 seconds. I said, okay. That's your to-do list for today. Every single day, 30 seconds of focused personal self-improvement time. And he laughed, just like you said. You just laughed, like, oh, that sounds so silly, right? And he was like, you know what? I'm going to do that. That sounds good. I'm going to try that. And what it does is it just gets them over that barrier that was built up in their brain. They made the mountain out of the molehill, and I just make the molehill into an anthill and make it easy for them to get started. Because once you get started, the momentum will carry you through, especially if you can stay consistent at it.
Yeah. And, I wish we could do everything in 30-second increments. It would make life, just break it down, right? Yeah, right. That's crazy. And so you talk about that opening up freedom for people, or, a clearer path. When you were going through this, is that something that happened for you, and that's why it can happen for others?
Absolutely. I had an absolute epiphany that completely changed the direction of, 5 years of nervous system nightmares and dysregulation to the point where shell of a human, relationships were awful. I was pretty much locked in my own brain and in my own mind, in my own bed. I couldn't do a single thing, to a complete 180 shift. And that epiphany for me, that mindset shift change, was so clear to me. I said, you know what? Other people need to have this same mindset shift change, and will completely change the direction of their life.
Wow. And, you talk about burnout, and I see that a lot. And I can remember I was in the greed is good era, with real estate. So that was really stressful. Mm-hmm. But do you feel like people are so conditioned that they're supposed to just suck things up and plow through it, regardless of their nervous system, their brain, their body? How do you explain to someone that you need to uncondition?
Yeah, I think people think once the goal is achieved, that relief washes over them, and they say, I've done it. And for some people, they've achieved the goal, but the problem is relief washes over them, and then they do nothing, or they're completely lost after that point. And what happens is they've built up this habit of pushing through when you feel awful, hoping that sometime you will feel good. And what happens is they'll realize, wait a second, I don't feel good. Why not? It's like, well, you've been practicing for years to just push through when you feel bad. And so now that your goal has been achieved, that dopamine didn't undo those years of habits that you ignored, and you still have all those habits. So you're just going to keep doing the same thing. I see it so many times, especially in entrepreneurs. They said, you know what? I grinded for 16-hour days to achieve this goal so I wouldn't have to work the rest of my life. And then I'm like, okay, well, then why are you working right now? Right? They've built in a habit of, they're just like, oh, you promised yourself that when I achieve that, then I will do this. But no, that doesn't happen that way. Whatever you've practiced is what's going to happen. Not, I'm going to stop 8 years of practice as soon as an arbitrary number gets reached and all of a sudden everything's going to be just stopped for me. No. You've trained, you've practiced for that. And you're going to carry that through it. No matter what goal you hit or don't hit, you're going to carry that through. So I teach you how can we slow it down and reposition our understanding of this and enjoy the journey now, not just then.
Yeah, people put that time frame on it, and it's like they're either really happy or really depressed if it does or doesn't happen, not realizing that, that's, and looking back, not even significant, and even as when I did my mom era,
Mm-hmm.
I was conditioned to keep my kids so busy at all times that I look back and I'm like, those were just little people, why did I do that? And I think it was because I was conditioned, you got to start taking your calls at this time. You got to make this many calls a day, blah, blah, blah. And so how do we like become aware and kind of stop that cycle?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I suggest is we need to start focusing on the things that are really important, the things that are actually going to move the needle and make a difference, because we can get stuck in this cycle of busyness equaling productivity when really the most successful people in the world, if they have a good, enjoyable, they're high performers in that not only are they successful, but they're monetarily, but they have healthy relationships and healthy bodies and things like that. When they're a well-rounded high performer, that's what I would call a true definition of success, not just a ton of money, but your life is miserable and everybody hates you. They have,
I know those people.
right? Those people that are truly high performers and successful, in my definition of the word, they've found that there are few things that if they focus on, will have higher impacts than others. And when they really get clear on what those high impact activities are, they can free up a lot of not only mental headspace, but they can really dive deep in what's important. And especially things like, so again, entrepreneurs, I'll sacrifice my relationship with my wife and kids because I'm building a successful business for my wife and kids. But that's not what happens. Is you just lost everything when you could have enjoyed that whole process all the way through, and the true meaning of enjoyment and success and providing for your family, instead of, I'm going to work really hard, not spend any time with them just so I have money for them. And then next thing you know, you're still working even when you have all the money for them, and you've just gotten into this habit of ignoring what's important. So really getting clear on what is the high leverage, high impact activity that brings results without having to spend 15 hours a day being busy instead of being productive.
Yeah, and that's such a good point. And I love the fact that you're bringing up a lot of health with this, because we only have this one body. And when we get to the point, or when we get to that point of burnout, we're mentally, physically, and just incapacitated at times. That's when you want to, it's like, I just want to go to bed and put the covers over my head. I don't want to do anything.
That's right.
And I'm amazed because, like I said, my career in real estate was long ago, but we're still seeing it, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
And who's pushing that? Is it just old conditioning? Are people still hearing, well, you've got to do this, you've got to do that?
It's keeping up with the Joneses. It's wanting to be perceived a certain way. It's worried what other people are going to think about me compared to what's important to myself. It's just thinking that's what success looks like, and I'm just trying to keep up, not realizing that those people that might be performing way higher than you might not be having the life that you actually want to have and enjoy, because they're sacrificing other important things. It can be greed. It can be a number of different things, but honestly, it's just a habit. It's just conditioning, like you said.
Wow. And one thing I want to say about you right now to the audience, whoever's watching, is you are like the new coach coming into town.
Mm,
You are looking at many aspects. You are bringing in health. You're bringing in happiness. You're
mhm,
bringing in, destination that everybody talks about.
mm,
And I, for one, love that because we've had those old paradigms for so long, and that
mm.
they've even existed that this long. I'm so surprised. So you bring an absolute breath of fresh air to
Oh,
all of this. And I absolutely love it. I mean, I'm listening to you. Everything makes sense.
oh, good. I'm glad.
Everything makes sense. And I think your message is so important. So I know we're getting towards the end here, but before we go, just some great nuggets for the audience. What would I know you've been giving a lot of advice. I've heard it. It's awesome. Anything that can just let someone know certain things are okay. You don't have to, kill yourself
Mm.
to ring that bell at the end.
That's right. That's right. Well, there's a couple of different things I could leave the audience with. Do you mind if I hit you with a question and I can try and go
Yeah,
through
I
one
would
on one?
love that. And I'm very honest, very candid. You might stump me, but let's go.
Okay, excellent. Well, what's been your biggest struggle with procrastination lately?
You know what? I would say it's moving forward with my career because I'm very much into spirituality and I do energy healings, and I've been blessed with some very amazing gifts, including healing people with my hands
Mm,
and speaking light language, which is comes through me, but
mm.
they're both coded with healing. They're
Okay.
both, they come from the angelic realm. And I was afraid to talk about it
Mm.
because it's not everybody's
Cup of tea. That's
thing, and a lot of people don't understand, and then you get that label.
right. Mhm.
So I always say I'm just now coming out of the spiritual closet,
Mm, mhm.
and so I would say I'm a little bit stuck. Do I keep talking about it? Do I just, sometimes I say intuitive
Mhm.
energy healer. I'm really not sure how to market myself. And
Excellent.
so I procrastinate and don't.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. So this is a very common thing. We all struggle with this as we think we can think our way to a solution. You know what I mean? Where we just like, okay, I've been in that same cycle, same stuckness of like trying to change my mind and my focus all the time, and what do I do and go with it? The practice that I would suggest is, okay, what least amount of time or energy you could spend every single day enjoyably without burning out, either talking about or having a conversation with a potential prospect about what you do.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty easy, right?
So that might be a goal of one conversation a day, or,
Mhm.
you know, 5 minutes a day, or whatever that looks like for you. But the thing is, make sure that's on your to-do list, not a wish list, but it's a must-do list, meaning I have to do this every single day. If you miss a day here or there, that's not a big deal. Try not to miss 2 days in a row, but try to do it every single day, even if it's just a few minutes a day. But
Mhm.
just train your brain to get through that fear and focusing on the action step. And so instead of getting stuck into the thinking and try to make it perfect, and the resistance that we're meeting, what is the simple action step that's easy and enjoyable that I can do every single day that will take me one step forward to getting clearer?
Wow, that's amazing advice. I wrote it down.
Thank you. Good. I'm glad.
I wrote it down. That's great. But what I want to tell our audience is what I'm hearing today is such a breath of fresh air because we all get stuck in procrastination. There's just
Not
everyone I know at one
absolutely.
time or another, right? They
Absolutely.
get stuck. And I have a link in the description where you can get in touch with this amazing man. And for me, I couldn't wait to hear all of this because I'm guilty. And I
Mm,
think a lot of people are. And in listening to you today, everything makes sense.
mm,
Everything makes sense. I love that you put the health spin on it. I
mm,
love that you talk about the journey, not,
mm,
there's just so many things we're conditioned to. And you have really raised the roof on this. You raised the
Thank you.
bar, and I'm so glad you came on today.
Excellent. I really appreciate you having me. So when I mentioned that epiphany that I had that changed everything for me, I
Mhm.
put that into a simple one-page guide. That's something that everyone can go to my website and download. It's called my 5-second focus trigger. It's how to beat procrastination and focus on the right things as a daily practice that will help change your shift and your focus to one that's a lot more productive. So that's free for
Wonderful.
everybody. If you go to my website, you can download that. And I go live every single day instead of a private Facebook group. So that if you have any questions for me every single day at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, come in and ask me any question you want about procrastination and productivity and focus.
I'm following. I'm going to be a follower.
Good. I'll see you there.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on today. This is someone, I've got the link to his website in the description. Go check that out. Check him out. And Jesse, thank you so much for an absolutely wonderful interview.
Thank you so much, Nicole.
Okay, take care.
Take care.